From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the news at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Anne Waodo.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, after weeks of speculation, Kano State Governor Abba Yusuf officially parts ways with the new Nigeria People's Party, alongside several lawmakers and local government chairmen, cites party persistence, internal crisis. Court adjourns indefinitely the suit filed by Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his deputy Ngozi Maudu, challenging the impeachment process initiated against them by the State House of Assembly. Vice President Kashim Shettima calls for homegrown solutions to Africa's economic challenges during a high-level meeting held on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum in Davos. And British Prime Minister and Prince Harry condemn President Trump's remarks regarding British troops in Afghanistan. Also in sports tonight, Rivers United head coach Finidi George targets the team's first CAF Champions League group stage win when they face Power Dynamis in Zambia on Saturday.
On business news, Afreximbank ends its relationship with leading global rating agency Fitch following a disagreement over credit rating evaluation.
And from the nation's capital, Southern Kaduna People's Union backs calls for the establishment of a military base in Kajuru to help curb insecurity in the area. We begin with party politics. Kano State Governor Abba Yusuf has officially resigned his membership of the new Nigeria People's Party, the NNPP, citing prolonged internal crisis and the need to safeguard the overall interest of the people of Kano. This development was disclosed by the governor's spokesperson, Sanusi Bature Dawanki Tofa, while presenting the governor's letter of resignation. According to him, Governor Yusuf communicated his decision in a letter addressed to the chairman of Diso Chiranchi Ward of the NNPP in Gwale local government area. The resignation takes effect from January the 23rd, 2026. He also says the governor's next political destination will be communicated at the appropriate time.
His Excellency, in the best interest of the good people of Kano State, decided to leave this platform at this time so that he can decide for himself another political journey.
Is he resigning alone or he's coming along with
His Excellency is resigning along with 8 members of the House of Representatives and 21 members of the State House of Assembly, with the 44 local government chairmen in Kano State. And we will announce the next political destination of His Excellency in no distant time.
The Olubadan of Ibadan land, His Imperial Majesty Rashidi Ladoja, believes that the federal government must do more to address the concerns of Nigerians in areas of health, insecurity, and food security. Speaking after paying a courtesy visit on President Bola Tinubu at the State House in Abuja, the traditional ruler also revealed his perception of the president's style of governance.
No, if you know from where he's coming, if you know that he knows what he's doing, that is what is most important. He was coming, he was able to get Lagos from where it was to where he left it. So I'm sure that the situation in Nigeria might not have been as even bad as it was. The problem is that the Nigeria is more complex than the state because of the fact that not all of us have the same notion about what we want in Nigeria. So, but nonetheless, the states have more money than we had when we were governors. and they are able to meet their commitments than what we had when we were governors. So I believe that by and large, the economy has to be fixed, and it's been fixed. We will hope that by the time it's leaving 2031, we will have put Nigeria where all of us will be proud of. We expect the government to work more on the situation of the food. We expect them to look at the situation of health. We should have standard hospitals where we can treat our people. But the major problem we really now have is the problem of insecurity.
The Oyibo High Court in Port Harcourt, the River State capital, has put on hold indefinitely the legal battle over the impeachment move against River State Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his deputy, Professor Ngozi Odu. Justice Florence Fabiarisima adjourned the case after learning that 2 separate appeals had already been filed, ruling that the Court of Appeal must first resolve the issues raised. At the hearing, counsel to the Speaker of the River State House of Assembly, Martin Amawele, and 27 lawmakers informed the court of the pending appeals and requested a stay of proceedings. The request went unchallenged by lawyers representing the governor and his deputy and other defendants. The judge therefore adjourned the matter, awaiting the appellate court's decision. And this comes against the backdrop of an earlier interim injunction by the same court, which halted all steps towards the impeachment process, including the issuance or consideration of notices and the formation of any investigative panel over alleged misconduct. As Imo State Governor Hope Uzodinma marks 6 years in office, hundreds of youths from the Egbema community under the umbrella of Egbema Youth Association have taken to the streets in a solidarity walk, celebrating what they have described as the governor's superlative performance over the years. The youths marched through major streets in Owerri, the Imo State capital, displaying banners highlighting the achievements of the Uzodinma administration. Our correspondent Aitokwe Kutei reports.
Hundreds of youths from the Egbema community in Oaji, Egbema local government area of Imo State embark on a solidarity walk under the umbrella of the Egbema Youth Association to commemorate the 6th anniversary of Governor Hope Uzodinma's administration.
Today, as you can see behind you here, all the youths, I'm talking about the youths, all the youth communities are all here present. And we're here to demonstrate our appreciation to the governor of Imo State for his 6 years in office. A governor that has done well for his people, a governor we appreciate. That's why we came here, to appreciate him too. And say, governor, you are doing well. And today, the youths are decided, out of their own conscience, their own reasoning, to come and work with you, come and be beside you, to assist you. Any dream you have, what's here is to push it for you.
We have come to celebrate with our working governor 6 years of his achievement. Egbema youth said that this is the time to come and celebrate with our governor and the other Imo youth. We have come to dramatize what we know, the joy we have for the development we have seen in Owerri.
Receiving the youths on behalf of the governor, the Imo State Commissioner for Lands and Survey, Mr. Eyinaya Onwegu, commends them for what he describes as a bold and patriotic gesture. He praises the governor's achievements over the past 6 years and gives assurances to the youths that the Uzodinma-led administration remains committed to implementing people-oriented programs and policies aimed at youth empowerment and development.
I believe traveling from Egbema to Owerri is not a one-day decision. It is not a jamboree. It is a matter of grave and serious concern for you. Sure. That you have come to tell our governor once again that he is in your heart, that you love him like he loves you, and that you are happy with the progress he has brought to Imo State. I want to assure you that as far as our state is concerned, everybody knows that peace has finally come to Imo. Imo State recorded the highest number of diaspora returnees this Christmas in the southeastern region. Imo State stayed the Christmas season and New Year without even a vehicular accident. No incident of crime anywhere. Because of the synergy between the government of Imo State and the security agencies. You are here because you know the truth. And like the Bible said, the truth will always set us free.
The Solidarity Walk, according to participants, is not only a celebration of the governor's 6 years in office, but a reaffirmation of the Egbema youth's confidence in his leadership. They express optimism for sustained development and inclusive governance in Imo State.
Youths from across Ekiti State have also staged a march in Ekiti, the state capital, expressing their own commitment to a peaceful electoral process. A former student leader and presidential aide, Sunday Asefon, who led the walk alongside the Speaker of the Ekiti State House of Assembly and other top political figures, say the Tinubu administration and the Oyebanji-led government have recorded positive strides in youth empowerment, welfare, and the security of citizens. According to them, it is important to encourage Ekiti youths and their political fellowship to embrace non-violent conduct during election campaigns and encouraging them to get their permanent voter cards.
We are in the streets of Ado today to thank the president and the governor for what they have done in their investment in education in the Ekiti State and Nigeria at large. To us as a student, to us as a youth, we believe we own them. And what we own them is money, silver, gold we do not have. But we believe on the day of election, we shall reward them. They have done wonderfully well, and that is what we are also doing today. One, to advise and to call our friends and colleagues, students and youth, to go and get their PVC for those who do not have. And for those who have, to keep it. One, on the 28th of June, there's going to be an election, a governorship election in Ekiti. We must come out en masse to show to every Ekiti people, to show Nigeria that Governor Biodun Abayomi has invested so much in youth development and education sector.
We have seen a president who is prepared to govern this state. We have seen a man who is tackled headlong issue of insecurity. Today you have read that the Nigerian army has taken over the Sambisa forest. That is what we are here for, to say we are standing on the mandate that we have given to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that we are standing on the mandate that we have given to Governor Biodun Abayomi Oyebanji, and we are ready to renew their contracts so that they can continue with the development that we are witnessing in Nigeria and in Ekiti State.
Vice President Kashim Shettima is advocating for homegrown solutions to Africa's economic problems, emphasizing innovative approach for growth, development, and prosperity on the African continent. The Vice President gave this advice during a high-level Accra Reset Initiative meeting held on the sidelines of the ongoing 2026 World Economic Forum annual meeting in Davos, Switzerland. Our correspondent Emperor Simon reports.
Vice President Kashim Shettima sets out for another day of engagements at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. This time, he's attending a high-level Accra Reset Initiative meeting. The meeting, attended by business leaders and development partners, also has President John Mahama of Ghana, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, and former Vice President Yemi Osinbajo in attendance.
Interpretation of what we need to do, because as
the discussion here focuses on the imperative of a more deliberate effort on the part of African leaders to chart a course for the continent's development to preserve the sovereignty of their countries.
Sovereignty is not a flag that we are going to wave. To come here and wave out. Sovereignty is discipline. It is the ability to make choices and carry them through. It is the ability to negotiate firmly, coordinate regionally, mobilize capital, incentivize resources, and implement at scale that lead to sustainable development and growth.
These points are re-echoed by President Mahama of Ghana and former Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, who both call for stronger ties among African nations.
So here's what we must focus on. First, we must invest in skills, not just education, but skills that match real jobs in the real economy. Digital skills, green energy skills, manufacturing skills. We need a generation of young Africans who can build and not just consume. Second, we must build together. No African country can industrialize alone by itself. We must create regional prosperity platforms, manufacturing zones, energy grids, and digital infrastructure that gives our businesses skill and our workers opportunity.
The whole idea is to find ways of rethinking how to fund that development there and then. If we ask ourselves what has worked,
His Excellency Shetima to say a brief remark.
For Vice President Shetima, there is an urgent need to build domestic productive capacity by converting Africa's population and natural talents into real resilient wealth.
What confronts us now is not a discrete development problem, but a shared condition of systemic stress. Demographic aging in parts of the north, debt and inflation pressures across the south, climate volatility and a global order whose institutions are struggling to match today's risk for credible collective action. To our brothers from the global north, I'm here to tell you the solution to our labor crisis, and it is a solution to our developmental crisis.
Vice President Shetima commends organizers of the Africa Reset Initiative, which he notes will help reset the mindset of African nations from dependency to dignity, from aid to investment, and from rhetoric to results.
The take-home from the meeting is that Africa can only rise when countries on the continent build, not just in silos, but in unison. From Davos, Switzerland, Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
In part two, after the break, one person killed in multiple crash along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, leaving commuters stranded for several hours on Friday. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our main stories. After weeks of speculation, Kano State Governor Abia Yusuf officially part ways with New Nigeria People's Party, alongside several lawmakers and local government chairmen, citing party's persistent internal crisis. Court adjourns indefinitely the suit filed by Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his deputy Ngozi Maudu, challenging the impeachment process initiated against them by the State House of Assembly. And Vice President Kashim Shettima calls for homegrown solutions to Africa's economic challenges during a high-level meeting held on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum in Davos. And British Prime Minister and Prince Harry condemn President Trump's remarks regarding British troops in Afghanistan. Officials of the Lagos State Traffic Management Authority have cleared 2 trucks involved in multiple crash, which claimed 1 life on the Otedola Bridge along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway earlier today. Both vehicles reportedly collided while struggling for right-of-way, causing severe traffic disruption and leaving the driver of the sand-laden trailer trapped in the wreckage. He later died after being rescued and taken to the General Hospital in Ikeja, while the second driver was rescued unharmed by emergency emergency responders from Lasma and Lasambas. Adding to the chaos today, another trailer fully loaded with flour overturned just meters away from the main crash, blocking nearly 80% of the road. The Lagos State Special Advisor on Transportation, Mr. Sholagiwa, while extending condolences to the victim's family, has also asked motorists, especially truck drivers, to obey traffic rules and drive responsibly. Teaching and learning will no longer be held hostage again in Nigeria. President Bola Tinubu made this declaration during the 56th convocation ceremony of the University of Lagos, which held at the institution, where he was represented by the Minister of Education, Tunji Alauza. The Vice-Chancellor of the University of Lagos, Professor Folashade Ogunshola, also used the occasion to call on the graduating students to imbibe the can-do spirit and be good ambassadors of the school. The Adeajai Hall of the University of Lagos is filled with members of the governing council, led by the Pro-Chancellor, Mr. Wole Olanipekun, the Minister of Education, who's representing the visitor, President Bola Tinubu, the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Folashade Ogunshola, the Shehu of Borno, Abubakar Ibn Umar Garba El Kanemi. These special guests and students are present to witness the epoch-making occasion. Welcoming everyone to the occasion, the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Ogunshola, calls on the graduating students to never give up, no matter how difficult the challenge is.
You have gone through the training of the University of Lagos. I hope you have imbibed our logo, our motto, in deed and in truth. It is about what you do, and it is about character. We will be letting you out into the world. And as we let you out, we want you to know that there is nothing that you cannot do.
The Pro-Chancellor then offers some words of advice to the students.
You are going into the world as fine and refined products of the University of Lagos, not minding the areas of discipline that you are obtaining your postgraduate degrees. Very profound that you are going to take over from us. And in taking over from us, may you, gently and severally, be greater than us.
Reading the speech of President Tinubu, the Minister of Education, Mr. Olatunji Alausa, says that education remains the bedrock of his administration's renewed hope agenda, stating that he has kept the promise of halting strikes in the nation's university system.
Since the inception of my administration, Nigeria has witnessed 2 uninterrupted academic sessions across our federal tertiary institutions without strike. This is not accidental. It is the product of firm political will, sustained dialogue, and responsible leadership. Acting under my direct mandate, the Honorable Minister of Education concluded and signed a new agreement with the Academic Staff Union of Universities.
Chief Kanu G. Agabi, Commander of the Order of the Niger, Senior Advocate of Nigeria.
The high point of this year's convocation ceremonies is the conferment of honorary doctorate degrees on former Minister of Justice, Mr. Kanu Agabi, as well as the Group Chief Executive Officer of O&O PLC, Mr. Wale Tinubu.
This ceremony is the university's way of expressing its determination that we shall not celebrate corruption or incompetence or violence. It is excellence that we shall celebrate. It is life that we shall celebrate. We shall celebrate hope. That is what this university has been teaching, and that is what she reiterates today at this convocation.
16,506 students were graduated in various categories, including 1,211 who bagged first-class degrees. The university management and partners believe that this year's convocation signals a new beginning for the institution, which remains steadfast in advancing quality education for the overall development of the country. You need the news at 10 now as we head over to the nation's capital, Abuja, where Gloria Omezoke is standing by to bring us more stories. Over to you, Gloria.
Thank you, Anne. We begin with the Southern Kaduna People's Union. Sokapu has commended Governor Obasani of Kaduna State for his visit to Kurmin Wali community following the recent abduction in the area. The group have also backed the governor's call for the establishment of a military base in the area to curb insecurity. They made the call during a media briefing in the state capital.
The leadership of the Southern Kaduna People's Union is hosting this media briefing after the latest abduction in Kurmanwali village of Kajuru local government area of the state. The union commends the governor for his leadership in the state, especially after the governor's visit to the area. They backed the call for the establishment of a military base in the area.
On behalf of the Southern Kaduna people, I hereby commend efforts of Governor of Kaduna State, Senator Obasani, for taking his time to visit Kurmin Wali in Kajuru local government area to commiserate with the community which was attacked by bandits on Sunday, 18th January 2026. It is worthy of note that Governor Obasani is the first governor ever to visit the community.
The group also commended the governor's efforts to ensure speedy rescue of the abducted persons. Beyond the security situation, the group is appealing to President Bola Tinubu to consider the Minister of Defense, General Christopher Musa, as his running mate for the 2027 presidential election.
A very special thanks goes to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for the various developmental strides he is making for the good of Nigeria and the citizens. Of particular attention is the recent appointment of General Christopher Musa retired as the Minister of Defense shortly after his retirement from active service. Also worthy of note and appreciation with gratitude is the growing yearning of Nigerians across all manner of social divisions calling for the consideration of General Christopher Musa retired as the next presidential running mate to Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Elsewhere, federal and state lawmakers from the area stand in solidarity with the community. They describe the incident as deeply distressing, noting that the sense of safety in the community has been severely shaken.
We share in the pain and distress of the affected families and the entire Kurmi Wali community. Our thoughts are with the victims, their relatives, and residents whose sense of safety has been gravely shaken. No community should face such suffering, and no family should be left in uncertainty over the fate of loved ones.
As concerns mount over the fate of the abductees, these groups are appealing to residents of the area to maintain calm, patient, and united, while cooperating with security agencies to ensure the release of the victims.
Troops of Operation Hadinkai have neutralized 2 high-profile Boko Haram commanders and several other fighters during coordinated operations in the Sambisa Forest and Mandara Mountains. In a press statement, the Media Information Officer of the Theatre Command, Lieutenant Colonel Sani Uba, explains that the operation took place in the early hours of January 22, 2026, after the terrorists attempted to plant improvised explosive devices. The operation carried out under Operation Desert Sanity 5 dealt a major blow to the leadership of the terrorist group and their logistics network. Lieutenant Colonel Uba also reveals that 3 AK-47 rifles, 1 pump-action rifle, 5 motorcycles, 12 AK-47 magazines, rocket-propelled charger, among other items, were recovered from the gang. In a separate offensive, the troops of Sector 1 Axis also made contact around the Malkube area, recovering additional AK-47 rifles, ammunition, and communication devices, while 2 terrorists were neutralized without casualties to personnel. And still ahead on the news at 10, Afreximbank ends its relationship with leading global rating agency Fitch following a disagreement over credit rating evaluations. That's in business news. Please join us again.
Welcome, sir. We need to look at this report.
What can we offer you?
Don't worry.
Huh? Mr. Chef, it's a two-finger crush.
Pass the beef and crayfish.
With Mr. Chef, a simple crush turns meals into culture and moments into memories.
This is the true taste of home.
And culture. Chef of life.
This Ramadan, it's not the season to hide, it's the season to let my beauty shine. Nivea Nourishing Cocoa Lotion 5-in-1 Complete Care. Discover deep nourishment with cocoa butter, deep moisture serum, and vitamin E for long-lasting moisture and protection from dry and ashy skin without the greasy feel. Get the Nivea Nourishing Cocoa Glow this Ramadan. Skin is for always shining. Nivea is for skin.
Some say learning is fun, but as a mom, I see how demanding it can be for my child. That's why I ensure he starts every day with a cup of Bonvita. Bonvita, prepare them to win every day.
Welcome back. You're still watching the news at 10, coming to you live on Channels Television. Over to Bauchi State, where stakeholders have expressed concern over the low registration of eligible voters and the poor collection rate of permanent voter cards across the state. The issue, which was raised during a stakeholders meeting, follows the release of statistics by the Independent National Electoral Commission on the first phase of the ongoing continuous voter registration exercise, which shows over 41,000 registered voters. Our correspondent, Hajara Aliyu, reports.
As Nigeria gears up for activities ahead of the 2027 general elections, the Independent National Electoral Commission in Bauchi is convening a stakeholders meeting to mark the resumption of Phase 2 of the continuous voter registration exercise. In attendance are representatives of political parties, security agencies, traditional institutions, religious bodies, civil society organizations, and electoral officers from across the 20 local government areas of the state.
I call on the ISES members.
The meeting is to provide an update on the first phase of the continuous voter registration exercise. According to the resident electoral commissioner, over 41,000 eligible voters registered in the first phase. However, more than 37,000 permanent voter cards remain uncollected.
That INEC is trying to overcome.
These generated concerns among the stakeholders.
We are still far below the expectations based on the population dynamics in Bauchi State.
What are the predicaments? Have you identified issues that are behind not collection of those PVCs?
He also announced plans for the next phase of the continuous voter registration exercise, stating that it will involve the devolution of the exercise to the registration area level. He also warned the stakeholders not to make any comparisons with other states.
Of those that have completed their registration, well, even though as low as you claim Bauchi is, but at least it is fair. As for those that have not collected their PVCs, those PVCs are the ones that were done before the 2023 general elections.
Other issues were discussed, including multiple voter registrations, as the electoral body explains efforts to detect and eliminate such irregularities.
Registration ends just a few months to the election. There is never and there has never been an opportunity for us to run this software to the satisfaction for us to meet, because the election is always at the corner by the time we start processing it. So this is why you see multiple voters cards being printed.
At the end of the meeting, stakeholders agreed that collective action is necessary to strengthen voter education, sensitization, and mobilization to increase participation in the continuous voter registration exercise.
And that's it from the nation's capital. It's back to you, Anne, in Lagos.
Thank you, Gloria. To other stories now. Governor Caleb of Twang of Plateau State has reaffirmed his administration's commitment to strengthening the rule of law with the swearing in of 6 new High Court judges for the State High Court. The governor charged the new jurists to uphold integrity, independence and professionalism in the discharge of their duties. Our correspondent Percy Dabang reports.
Governor Caleb Mutfwang arrived at the Victoria Gowon Hall of the State Government House, Little Rayfield, Jos, for the commencement of the swearing-in ceremony. The ceremony commences with the 6 newly appointed High Court judges taking their oath of office and the Code of Conduct, after which they appended their signatures and received their letters of appointment from the governor. In his address, Governor Mutfwang notes that the ceremony reflects the state government's determination to strengthen justice delivery and democratic governance.
Today's ceremony marks yet another significant milestone in our collective journey to strengthen the rule of law, uphold justice, and deepen democratic governance in our beloved Plateau State. The judiciary remains the last hope of the common man, and the quality, integrity, and independence of those entrusted with judicial authority largely determine the confidence of citizens in the justice system.
The governor congratulated the judges, explaining that their appointments followed due constitutional process and recommendations by the National Judicial Council, while urging them to dispense justice without fear or favor.
As you assume office today, you are called upon not merely to dispense justice, but to do so without affection or ill will, guided always by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the dictates of your conscience.
Speaking on behalf of the newly sworn-in judges, Justice Andrews Mackay expressed gratitude to the governor, the Chief Judge of Plateau State, Justice David Gunman, and the Judicial Service Commission for the confidence reposed in them.
I am deeply honored to express our heartfelt gratitude for the privilege of standing here today, experiencing the moment when our dreams have become a reality, for the confidence reposed in us, and for the constitutional role you have played in making this day a reality.
The ceremony was witnessed by senior judicial officers, representatives of the Court of Appeal, former governors and deputy governors, lawmakers, members of the Bar Association, and other dignitaries. Percy Dabang, Channels Television News.
In a renewed push to boost agricultural output and strengthen food security, the Abia State Governor, Dr. Alex Otti, has begun steps to reclaim abandoned and unindustrialized farm settlements across the state. And the move is coming as Governor Otti received a delegation from the Anambra-Imo River Basin Development Authority at the Government House in Umuahia during a southeast tour following the federal government's declaration of a state of emergency on food security. The governor emphasized the need for stronger collaboration between the federal and state authorities to revitalize agricultural production nationwide.
The Abia State Governor, Dr. Alex Otti, has commenced the process of reclaiming abandoned and underutilized farm settlements across the state as part of efforts to boost agricultural production and ensure food security. Dr. Otti receives a delegation of the Executive Management Committee of the Anambra-Imo River Basin Development Authority, led by its chairman, Senator Emmanuel Anosike. The leadership of the River Basin Development Authority is on a working visit to the Government House in Umuahia as part of a tour of Southeast states following the federal government's declaration of a state of emergency on food security. He stressed the need for strong collaboration among the federal and state governments to revitalize agricultural production.
We have about 100 hectares of land, and they used to cultivate rice and cassava.
and also do fishery there. But as I speak to you, those places, because we used to have collaboration with the state government, they monitor it, they assist in making sure those places work. As I speak to you, we are now doing below 1% of what is supposed to be done there.
It's a partnership that the governor is pleased to be a part of as he pledges his administration's full commitment to transforming Abia State's agricultural sector, noting that his government is already transitioning from subsistence farming to a value chain approach.
We are working on transiting from the kind of agriculture that we call subsistence farming to the value chain, all the way from primary products to secondary products, processing, leading to final products, and selling them. Instead of selling cocoa beans, we want to be able to sell chocolate.
Later in the day, Governor Oti receives a delegation of the Nigeria Council of Registered Insurance Brokers, led by its president and chief executive officer, Mrs. Ekioma Ezibe. Agriculture is also a major talking point here, especially the critical role of insurance in supporting agricultural investment, managing risks, and driving sustainable economic development.
Insurance is the only business that exists for the survival of other businesses. And so when we back up all of the things you are doing with insurance, then the private sector will thrive. Now, when the private sector thrives, it reflects, on the coffers of the state government, because they will then know that the state government haven't provided enabling environment for the private sector to thrive.
The engagements underscore the Abia State government's commitment to strategic partnerships as it intensifies efforts to achieve food security and economic growth.
From Abia to Kogi State, where the government is seeking the support of investors in the proposed 50 billion naira sukuk bond, with the state plans to use to fund the state's international airport and the Lokoja International Market. The State Commissioner for Finance, Mr. Ashiru Idris, made this appeal at an investors' engagement and market sensitization forum ahead of the issuance of the bond in Abuja.
Kogi State approaches the capital market not out of fiscal distress, but out of strategic ambition. Ambition to accelerate infrastructure delivery, deepening economic productivities, and align today's investment with clearly defined long-term vision. Kogi State operates under a 32-year development plan. We provide long-term direction, continuity, and predictability in policies and capital deployment. This plan underpins our budgeting, borrowing, and execution framework. Beyond derivation, we are deliberately expanding the internally generated revenue through agricultural value chains. MSE growth is supported by over 6 billion in grants and soft loans. Strategic markets, such as the Lokoja and Zone 8 ultramodern markets, industrial corridors, including Ajakuta, and the proposed free trade zone and Alape processing zone.
Let's continue in the world of business and join Dominic Iwewu to take us through those stories.
Thank you, Anne. And on business news, the African Export-Import Bank, Afreximbank, has officially terminated its credit rating relationship with Fitch Ratings, one of the world's leading rating agencies, over issues relating to the evaluation of its credit worthiness. In a statement issued today, the multilateral finance institution says the agency's assessment no longer aligns with its establishment treaty, mission, or mandate. The fallout stems from Fitch's June 2025 decision to downgrade Afreximbank's long-term credit rating from BBB to BBB- with a negative outlook. Fitch's downgrade was based on increased exposure to sovereign borrower countries, such which include Ghana, South Sudan, and Zambia, which were undergoing or at risk of debt restructuring. Despite these changes, the Afreximbank says its business remains strong, supported by robust shareholder ties and legal protections in its establishment agreement. In its efforts to address the persistent cash supply challenges, the central bank says it plans to introduce a new regulatory policy to sanitize debit card issuance and automated teller machine operations across Nigerian banks. The announcement, which was made through the CBN Governor's Special Advisor Fatai Karim at the 2026 Committee of Heads of Bank Operations Conference, explains that the initiative will align the number of cards issued by banks with deployed ATM infrastructure to curb congestion, downtime, and cash shortage across the country. The financial market regulator mentions that banks will no longer be allowed to issue massive volumes of cards without corresponding investment in ATM and cash withdrawal infrastructure. Now we head over to the domestic stock markets, which made a moderate rebound at the close of Friday's trading session. Willie Bong tells us more.
Welcome to the stock market report. It's the final one for the week, and the NGX saw a rebound from Thursday's negative close. Now, the all-share index rose by 0.07% today, but not enough movement, though, to take it back to 166,000. Now, what sectors drove this rebound? We're seeing banking also rebounded today, 0.31%, and we're still looking at gains in Access Holdings, GTCO, and Zenith Bank. Now, looking at consumer goods, profit-taking persists there in PZ Cussons and Dangote Sugar, and that's the reason for the dip for a second straight day. And looking at oil and gas counter, rebound there, but despite the loss in Etana, now investors took advantage of lower prices in O&O. That's why we say it's marginally up 0.01%. Now, markets end Friday in the green. However, we may be seeing more profit-taking in the days to come. And those are the highlights. Will Ibang signing out.
Thank you, Will. Now let's take a look at the closing figures of global markets for Friday. And that's it on business news. Back to Anne for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Dominic. And outside our shores, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has condemned US President Donald Trump's recent comments regarding the role of British and NATO forces in Afghanistan, describing them as insulting and frankly appalling. Starmer follows a Fox News interview where President Trump claimed NATO allies stayed off the front lines during the conflict. Here's Simon Pusey with more international news and around the world in 5 from our London studio.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5.
Russian, Ukrainian and US negotiators are meeting in Abu Dhabi for the first trilateral talks since Russia's invasion in February 2022. The Kremlin confirmed Russian officials would attend the talks following a meeting between President Vladimir Putin and US envoys in Moscow. Russia described those talks as useful in every respect, but said a long-term peace deal could not be reached until territorial issues had been resolved. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said he regarded the Abu Dhabi talks as a step hopefully towards ending the war. The death toll in a fire which engulfs a shopping centre in Pakistan has climbed to 67. Police say 77 people are still reported as missing by their families following the fire at Gul Plaza in Pakistan's largest city, Karachi. But the scale of the damage following the blaze, which took more than 24 hours to put out, has slowed rescue efforts as authorities comb the remains of the 6,500 square metre complex. The British government has said Donald Trump was wrong to diminish the role of NATO and British troops in Afghanistan after the US president claimed allies stayed away from the front line. Mr. Trump claimed that NATO sent some troops but stayed a little back, sparking outrage from veterans and their families. The UK was among several allies to join the US in Afghanistan after NATO's collective security clause was invoked for the first and only time in its history following the 9/11 attacks. During the conflict, 457 British service personnel were killed.
We have never really asked anything of them. You know, they'll say they sent some troops to Afghanistan or this or that. And they did. They stayed a little back, a little off the front lines.
It's an absolute insult. It's an insult to 457 families who lost someone in Afghanistan. How dare he say we weren't on the front line?
Meanwhile, Donald Trump has withdrawn an invitation for Canada to join his newly constituted Board of Peace in the latest spat between the North American neighbours. Please let this letter serve to represent that the Board of Peace is withdrawing its invitation to you regarding Canada's joining, Trump said on Truth Social in a post addressed to Prime Minister Mark Carney, who made headlines this week when he warned of a rupture in the US-led global order. Meanwhile, EU Chief Antonio Costa said European leaders have serious doubts about the scope of the board, but were willing to work with the body in Gaza. A 22-year-old Afghan woman who was reportedly running a taekwondo gym for girls has been released after spending 13 days in jail. That's according to the Taliban. Khadija Ahmadzada was detained for being in violation of rules regarding women's sports gyms. Sports clubs have now been closed to women since 2021, shortly after the Taliban returned to power. The head of South Sudan's armed forces have given soldiers 7 days to crush the rebellion in the east. That is a potential threat to the capital, Juba. The Sudan People's Liberation Army in opposition has attacked and captured several areas in Jonglei state. The latest fighting has threatened Jonglei's capital, Bor, 2 hours' drive from Juba. There are fears that the fighting could reignite a full-blown civil war in the country. And a mega rocket set to take astronauts around the moon for the first time in decades is being taken to its launch pad. The Artemis 2 moon rocket is being moved from its assembly point to the launch area 4 miles away. The short trip through part of NASA's Kennedy Space Center is expected to take up to 12 hours. The mission, which could blast off as soon as the 6th of February, is expected to take 10 days. It is part of a wider plan aimed at returning astronauts to the lunar surface.
Yeah, so the first one was literally no one on board. Just send the spaceship around the moon, test it, see whether that worked. Artemis 2 is the next step up. Let's test the spaceship with a crew on board, see how everything works. And then Artemis 3 is the one that everyone's waiting for, which is where they go down to the surface. So it's really about testing the capsule, the Orion system. That's the main focus of the mission. There's a reasonable amount of other space experiments going on. There are some CubeSats that are going along for the ride as well. But it's really about testing how Orion works in space with people on board, testing all of the life support, testing things like how the toilet system works, which is pretty significant.
It is, yeah, that would be important if you're up there.
And so all of those things have to be done. It's one thing to send an uncrewed probe around and see how that does. It's another thing to put people on board.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. And in the world of sports, Rivers United coach Finidi George says that losing their first 2 matches in Group A will motivate his team to win against Zambia's Power Dynamos in their CAF Champions League Matchday 3 encounter, and that will happen on Saturday at the Levy Stadium. Coach Finidi says that his team will try to invoke their domestic form, which has placed them at the top of the Nigerian Premier League with 21 games played so far. Rivers United and Power Dynamos are winless, with 2 games played so far, sharing 3rd and 4th position. And ahead of the resumption of activities at the Zonal Training Center of National Institute for Sports in Benin City, the Edo State capital, the Director General of the Institute, Philip Shaibu, led officials of the Edo State Sports Commission and journalists on an inspection tour of the South-South Zonal Office earlier today. That visit, which followed an earlier inspection carried out last year, is aimed at assessing the level of readiness of the facility and identifying areas requiring urgent attention before full operations resume.
looking back at this facility, 2018 and 2019, when we came here to look at this facility where we're preparing for National Sport Festival 2020, the entire facility was dilapidated. There was no roof and everything was in a mess. The Edo State Sport Commission, we are working in collaboration with them. We have all gone around to check, and also seeking for the state government collaboration. The offices we have seen here is not going to be enough for NIS. We're already in talking terms with the Sport Commission and the state government to be able to provide other facility that will make NIS work.
Lewis Hamilton is praised for the massive challenge of adapting the change in technical regulations facing the 2026 Formula One grid as Ferrari unveiled their own new car on Friday. The seven-time world champion and his teammate Charles put the SF26 through its paces as the Freo private test track near their Manello headquarters in the area. After weeks of speculation, Kano State Governor Abba Yusuf has officially parted ways with the new Nigeria People's Party, alongside several lawmakers and local government chairmen, citing the party's persistent internal crisis. The Igbo High Court has adjourned indefinitely the suit filed by River State Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his deputy Ngozi Maudu, challenging the impeachment process initiated against them by the State House of Assembly. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwawado. Have a wonderful and restful weekend. Good night.